All right. Hey, every founder I talk to is asking about AI. You know, almost none are asking the right question, though. The question isn't what AI tool should I buy? The question is, where is my business losing time, money, and scalability? And how do I implement AI to solve it? Today, we're joined by Danielle from Numeric IQ Advisors to discuss how founder led companies can move beyond AI curiosity and create real business outcomes through implementation. Welcome to the show, Danielle. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I've been looking forward to this. I know that we met through connections, and we're in the Chicagoland area. So, I've been curious about kind of what you've been up to the last 60, 90, 120 days or so. I know a lot of changes have happened in my life, but like you just said before we even started recording, man, the world is crazy. So, I'd love to hear kind of the little bit of your background so that the Go for Show community can kind of learn where you came from, what you're about, and then we can dive into numeric IQ and what you're doing nowadays.
Sounds great. Well, like I said, the world is crazy, but that's what makes it fun every single day. So I run Numeric Advisors. It is basically an AI strategy and implementation consultancy for small and medium businesses. But that's kind of the new story. When we connected initially, I think I was very much in the typical let's go buy a business mode, which is why I left my tech business from before, which I'll talk about. But the world is changing so quickly that after spending about 6 to 8 months looking for businesses, I became really in tune with what's going on with AI. And that just was a complete draw to me. So now I spend my days working with small and medium businesses, usually in like the $1 to $15 million range, helping them understand where it makes sense for them to put AI into their businesses. And it's been, let's just say it's been a ride. It's been fun.
Awesome, awesome. Well, yeah. I mean, I've had a few AI people over the last probably year or so. One from England, a few in the States, I think one abroad as well, from another area. And it's interesting because I think, like you said, it relates to me like MSP IT services. Like sometimes you could just keep stacking and stacking and stacking and using nothing, right? Or
Yeah.
not using it deliberately or not actually implementing the right way. So, but I guess your background, right? I think you shared, professional services and, some other areas. Can you tell them, I guess, how numeric ID became an idea, a thought?
Yeah. So I started my career, it was coming out of 2010, so post well, I guess beginning of the recession type of situation here. So I started in finance. We all ran to accounting because everyone wanted a job. And I spent my first couple years out of undergrad at Ernst& Young doing the very fun world of audit, which anyone who's been in audit can tell you it is the opposite of exhilarating. And then I quickly jumped over to M&A advisory, working on deals, software, industrials, everything. And I loved that. I loved being in every single business. I loved learning what businesses were doing, really going deep on not just the financial, but like the commercial viability of it. And that's when I realized I need to go deeper in actually being inside businesses. So the reason I came to Chicago was because I came to do my MBA at Booth with my husband. Both of us did it together, and that was a whole other fun journey. But coming out of it, I studied there everything entrepreneurship that you could do. I avoided the finance and economics classes, which Booth is so famous for, and I got my hands dirty in every entrepreneurial program that they had. And when I graduated, I went straight into tech. So I spent 5 years in a Chicago tech company here. I ran sales, I ran product marketing, product growth, which for anyone who's kind of in the software world knows product growth is super, super critical to actually get your software sold effectively and efficiently. I ran partnerships, corporate development. I moved over to account management. I literally touched every single piece of the business except for finance, which was kind of funny. And I loved it. I really, really loved it. And after about 5 years of doing that, I felt like I wanted to take a bet on myself. So I announced to the 200-person company, I am leaving to go buy a business. This was a year ago. It's a year later. I did not buy a business. I started a business, and that's kind of how I got here. As I mentioned, I looked at a lot of professional services businesses over most of last year, tons of deals. And what kept coming up for me was AI is shifting so quickly. I don't know where it's going. I want to lean in there and learn more. And so it's really just like a natural create, I guess, just interest, curiosity that had me put pause on go buy a business versus let's go learn a little bit more about that and see how can I maybe take my curiosity with all my operating experiences and build that into something. And that's really how numeric advisors came out of a mix of curiosity, interest, and realization that I just didn't want to necessarily buy someone's business. Maybe I can actually start something myself.
Hmm. Now, I love the correlation because it makes me think I've curiously been into options trading the last 3 months. And it's interesting what you see once you learn what the market does and how the
Hmm.
market makers set the rules and then how they manipulate money and bring people in and retail and all that type of
Hmm.
stuff. So I don't want to go too far off on that, but it's interesting to kind of correlate it to what you just said is you took a journey of a year. And yeah, you could have been still working and kind of maybe part-time looking for business, but you went all in. And I love the conviction that you have of betting on yourself, right? Now you've identified something and you know where you want to go. So directionally speaking, what's your day to day right now with Numeric IQ? Are you in kind of the marketing phase? Have you picked up one or two clients that now are on retainer? What's kind of the dynamic at the moment?
That's a great question. So I have a few companies that I'm working with on a mix of fractional COO slash AI strategy and implementation. So a big piece of what I do is I work with the kind of call it C-suite business owners to really identify what workflows they have problems with. So whether it's time, whether it's money, and then I come with a solution of here's how we can actually implement different workflows that make sense. I present it and then I actually go and I start building it. And I start working with their teams to actually adopt it. So I spend way too much time inside Claude Cowork, Claude Teams, Claude Enterprise. Claude is basically my best friend, like my husband likes to say. So my day is very much taking my operating experience, my professional services hat, and then actually strategizing, presenting, building, implementing, and helping with adoption. That's my day
Okay.
in, day out.
And have you, just curious, because this is a world right now where a lot of people could start a business, have this AI friend, as you said, best friend, right?
Yes.
And have multiple agents and start to have like a team,
Hmm.
almost instantaneously. And I've seen some companies shoot up in evaluation that has been astronomical, and some, that are just kind of plotting but doing well. So, what's been the thought process for you? Is it like, hey, you're a team of one at the moment with the human being, but have you built out agents to then help you, or are you kind of just formulaically saying, okay, hey, I've got this client, I'm building out this process, and this agent. Now I've implemented, or what's the dynamic look like in that sense?
That's a great question. So I think one thing we're going to start hearing a little bit more of is like, what is my ROI on AI? So yes, you can go and build as many agents as you want. You can try to get the Mac Minis, they're out of stock. You can be on the 1 month wait list and build all your agents that are going behind. I think for myself, what has been really helpful is building context files for each of my clients. So they each live separately. It's on my Cloud Cowork, and I'm building very intentional skills. Skills and agents are two different things. Agents are basically continuously running for you. Skills are the agent capabilities, but triggered when you need them. So let
Mm,
me give you an example. So one of my clients, what I've built for them is basically a marketing kind of call it brain. And within the brain, there's multiple different skills that can help generate content for their newsletter that they might write once a week or once every 2 weeks. They have for their prepping for their podcasts. So similar to what you're doing, I have some clients who have podcasts and they want to be able to cut down their time from 3 hours of prepping for a podcast to 15, 20 minutes. That's a different skill. And then I can have another skill that runs off for writing their LinkedIn content, their other social media content. So those are skills. And the difference with that is that instead of having an agent that's constantly trying to find new trends, searching your competitors, bringing you things, you trigger it when you need it in your workflow day. So if I am the head of marketing for a small business, it's really me and one more person, right? Now they have access to skills that can help them write their content based off of who they are and what their business is. It can help them trigger their newsletters. It can help them prepare for podcasts. But they are the human in the loop and in control who are triggering their skills. So that's how I build it for my clients. And that's also how I use it for my own business. Skills versus agents. Very different use cases where the human's in control and not necessarily the agent, which I think is a really important distinction when we think about how we want people to actually use these
okay.
technologies.
And let's go deeper on that. I like that train of thoughts. So you've distinguished skills over the agent, but then the skills are put into the agent, right? And triggered. So are these triggered based on the prompts that people are asking? Is it based on you set up time workflows where, hey, every Wednesday we usually go into a meeting and I need to be prepped at 8 a.m. Is that, am I
Yeah.
following, tracking that
Let
right?
me
Or,
give you an example. Even so,
okay.
I write a newsletter called AI After Carpool, which is purely just like a passion project where I'm trying to take everything I'm learning from AI and share it with parents and people who are at my stage in their career. And so what I have was what I called a trend scanner, which is a skill. What it does is I trigger it every Monday morning where it runs itself and it already has the prompt built in. It already knows these are the four different content pillars that I'm writing about. These are the different types of people that I want you to follow. And I click run the skill and it brings it to me every single week, everything that's been in the news related to the four things that I'm writing about. That is the skill. So the skill already has the prompt and the context built in. That is the build time. That's something that I build that can take 15, 20, 30, 40 minutes, depending on how much context I want to feed it. And then I, as the newsletter writer, run it every Monday morning as part of my workflow. So similar to someone who's in a small business, if they're running marketing and they have a skill for writing all their content, they can decide, I block out Wednesday afternoons. Every Wednesday afternoon, I'm going to click my skill and it's going to start helping me draft out that process.
Hmm, interesting. And of course, you've got some passion projects, like you said, to maybe build community. You've got the actual business, right, that you're
Yeah.
charging money for. What's been, kind of the play between the two? Because I think a lot of people in our Go for CEO community, right, it's go for CEO, right? Become the
Yeah.
CEO of your life and
Yeah.
faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun, all the five F's.
Yeah.
But you start a business and you get distracted because hey, it's squirrel. Like it's
Yep.
interesting to kind of see how many people adapt into that. Hey, I don't just have a job. It's 9 to 5. This is what I do, and I've got guardrails.
Yeah.
As a business owner, you really kind of put your own guardrails together.
Yeah.
So what's been your guardrails of, all right, hey, I need to, maybe you don't need to go make money. I don't know the situation, but what part of time management have you encountered that you've really enjoyed, and also now with this agentic competency that you have to build out things like this and efficiencies, where are you kind of patterning your entrepreneurial time?
That's a great question. So I think the structure is already built in by the fact that I have three kids, 6 and under. So like I'm not that person who can then go and, work on their passion project from 5 to 9. So bringing back to your previous comment of me going all in, there wasn't me doing this on the side, looking or starting a business like after my 9 to 5, because my 5 to 9 is really taken up with my kids. And that's something
Mhm.
that I'm not willing to compromise. So that's kind of even how I got to the point of leaving a very good, comfortable, fun tech job to go on this journey. I think what's different for me, and this is the first time I'm feeling it, probably in the last couple months. I didn't feel this right when I left my job, but when I wake up every morning, I am actually excited for the day. There's no
Mhm.
more Sunday night scaries. It's just really fun. So I think for me, just the structure of how it works is I am very clear that my 9 to 5 is really my 9 to 5, right? If you're working for yourself, you could be tempted to go and do other things. I have a schedule. I have my time blocks. I know when I'm working on certain things. There's no really going around that. So I think if you treat your free time as an entrepreneur, and this is a solo entrepreneur, right? This is different when you're buying a business or you're inheriting and you have employees. You have to be so, so, so almost neurotically protective of your business hours and be super intentional with it. And that is the only way that I'm really able to do all the things that I'm doing by being intentional and blocking
Mhm.
off that time. I don't know if that's
Now,
answering your question, but
no, yeah, I think it's very valuable, right? Because I think, one of the things of our channel has been seeing the people that take the full leap, seeing the people that take that 9 to 5 and then 5 to 9 mentality to build their thing on the side, partnering with others, buying companies. So there's different strategies. And in fact, my second book that I'm thinking about writing is this whole hybrid. So for at least for me, as a commercial banker by trade, like I don't know if I should say this online, but it's funny because you have this in certain industries, you have this ability to have some free time, right? and to mix in things, maybe even an interview or whatever. And it's interesting because there's certain types like if I was a manufacturer worker, right,
Hmm.
bending steel at a place at a fabricator, that's what I do. I got to go there and I got to physically be there. But now, transition the last 5 years is so many fractional COOs and fractional CFOs, and like you
Hmm.
starting to see our culture be able to do multiple things. But yeah, there's a distraction mechanism that you could
Yeah,
fall into, like, oh, I wasn't even productive for the last 2 weeks, right? So
no,
what
for
did
sure.
I actually do? What did I bill out? How did I make money or whatever, that type of thing. So all right, so now look, you did that transition of looking at multiple businesses. Nothing really hit home for you. Now you're in this advisory AI space. You've committed to Claude and your best friend and
Yeah.
creating these agents. So what is, I guess, what are the next steps for you in, are you trying to achieve, 5 clients on retainer, 10 clients? What's kind of the goals for you coming up in the next 3 to 6 months?
Yeah, I think I'm still trying to figure that out because there is a world in which the retainer is what I'm mostly working on right now. But I do, after having so many conversations with people that I know in my network who work in businesses, they might not be the business owner themselves, but they themselves are trying to find solutions to make their work more efficient. I think there's also a world in which I can start doing more one-off builds. And right
Hmm.
now, I know that's not necessarily the most intuitive. Everyone loves recurring revenue, but I think there's so much to learn from different people's workflows that I'm starting to open up my time to starting to build these kind of one-off solutions for a lot of folks that I know who are in different industries, because that at the end of the day informs a lot of the retainer work that I can do. So for now, I have a little bit more breathing room to maybe take on like one more retainer client, but I'm going to intentionally start to build some of these one-time builds because it helps me understand where I can really build workflow value. I am thinking about potentially bringing on some folks in 6 months from now. I do know, to your point, there's a lot of people who are more fractional now because of changing life circumstances, because I think a lot of folks my generation are starting to realize this whole playbook we were handed of go to school, get a good job, work there for a long time, make it to partner, stick around isn't really panning out the way that it used to. So I'm seeing a lot more folks in my network that I might be able to start partnering up with to start offloading some of like the work that I'm doing myself. So that's something I've been thinking about pretty intentionally because to your point, like it can be lonely being by this is not what I envisioned when I initially left. I'm still having a lot of fun. But I do see a world in which in a couple months from now, I start trying to bring in people from my network to build along with me.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's interesting because then, where do you take it from? All right, hey, I've developed this incredible skill for the founder-led companies. And then what I'm gathering is you mentioned are you saying then for the individual that are professionals in their own personal life, you also can build agents, or did I
For
miss
them
that?
in their jobs. I've had a
In
lot
their
of folks
jobs.
reach
Okay.
out to me who are very high up in their companies.
Sure.
But again, like there's a lot of limitations sometimes, like what their company is allowing them to do. So a big piece of what I'm trying to navigate for a lot of those folks are understanding data security. What tech stack are they allowed to use? And they sometimes have one or two pain points that are making them crazy that
Hmm.
they want me to help them build a solution for. So like I'm starting to do some of that on the side as one-offs, and I'm starting to realize that there is a world of the SMB owner, which is very important, but there's a lot of folks in my cohort who might have gone through MBA programs with me, have very important jobs, but they are not the ones who own the business, but they are desperately, desperately looking for support because they understand that there's capability, but they don't have the resources from the company. And I would say the permission to start toying around and playing because this stuff, I'm not going to say it's rocket science. It's not, but you need time to go and invest to learn how to use it. So similar to business owners, I'm seeing a lot of professionals who just don't know what's real and what's not. How to break through the noise is the biggest pain point I'm seeing. And so I'm thinking about how can I support those folks to at least have some tools to do their jobs better. And maybe at the end of the day, that unlocks an opportunity for me to, help other folks in the org and get the owner bought in. Could be, could not
Hmm.
be, but I'm just seeing that there's a big opportunity there as well.
Will that be a low price point to get in from an individual standpoint? So I'm just thinking, even for me, right,
Yeah.
as a commercial banker, I collect financials and then I do back of the napkin EBITDA, right? And then I look at it, okay, can they service the debt they're asking for? They're asking for 13 million, they're asking for 2 million, whatever it is. Um, I've played around with the last bank I was at, we had access to Copilot, right?
Hmm.
And Copilot seems to have kind of embedded itself in the enterprise and small
Yep.
business arena. But it's interesting because, yeah, it's somewhat limited. And then do we go outside of it and go to Claude and create this cool agent stuff and then bring it
Yeah.
back in? Oh, wait, we weren't supposed to do that, that type of thing.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
how are you playing that and how are you monetizing your time then in that scenario?
So in those scenarios, I kind of have a minimum of the price that it makes sense for me to charge. And then I try to think how long would it take me to actually build that specific product. And the benefit to a lot of the work I'm doing right now, plus trying to do it for my own business, plus trying to do it for the newsletter, has made me very efficient. So I'm thinking about
Mm.
it from a perspective of how much would it take me to build and like what would be my minimum average price per hour that I would need, and then go by that and try to do it as like a one-time thing. A lot of people can also expense it to their company, right? Kind of like you'd had
Oh,
a
okay.
vendor. So some
Sure.
people might be using an agency. I'll give you an example. One of my clients has a website agency that's building their websites. I've built so many websites over the last couple of weeks using Claude Cowork together with Lovable. So anyone who has a LinkedIn premium account, just so you know, you get a year free of Lovable. It's been great. So
Oh, wow.
that's an example where you can pay an agency. You already have kind of a budget line for that. You might have that vendor relationship. They're doing a bunch of work for you on the marketing side, but you want to test something out, you might be able to take a small chunk of that budget, allocate it to me, see what you get, and then that can become a one-time thing or a continuous thing. So I'm trying to figure out like this is my sales, when I used to have to do sales into other enterprise clients, where are you on the budget line and how can you maybe get in there?
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm thinking there's a one-to-many play there, right? You get to all of a sudden be known, right? And there's a there's an odd thing, right? It's like you're taking the professional and simplifying their life, but then having to deal with their inner company rules and regulations. And then you have an
Hmm.
SMB that you're dealing with the founder-led need, and then you're solving that, right? So it's an
Yeah.
interesting time. So, all right. Well, look, you said maybe 2, 3, 5, 6 months from now, you're looking at maybe bringing on some talent. What has been your thoughts on that? And what breakpoints are you looking at to say, hey, numeric IQ is doing 100,000, it's doing 200,000, whatever amount it may do to be able to start to relieve yourself of some of your own time as the founder in this particular case. What are your thoughts about that? About bringing on talent, right timing, and then starting to source that talent over the next 6 months?
That's a great question. So I think for me, the pain point is, do I have enough hours in the day to do it? And will it get me to a point where I stop enjoying it? This has to be fun and this has to be doable. So for me, there have been some people who have reached out and said, I want you on X number of hours a week. I sometimes can't commit to that number. So that's already been a point for me where I know there's people in my network who are really good, who I can help coach to do the work, where I can still be the strategic lens and have them as the operator. So when
Mhm.
I start having a little bit more of that inbound request, I see myself saying no more often, that's going to be the trigger point for me. It's not necessarily a dollar amount. I think the perspective that I've learned looking at businesses, speaking to business owners, I'm not right now trying to optimize for the most dollar amount today. I see the importance of building for the future. So bringing in the right talent, even if it's a little bit earlier, when I have demand that I can't necessarily fill, those are going to be the two criteria that are going to make it reasonable for me to bring someone else in.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a dandy question, right?
Yes.
So, as a small business owner now, right, and having been through Booth and some of the bigger enterprises that you've been with, and kind of learning some of the clients that you used to work with on the M&A side, the question becomes, you know, how eager or how open are you that that individual that you're, offloading the work to may not be 100% of you? What's your
Yes.
thoughts about that? Because I think in our community, I think there's a struggle sometimes of most small to medium-sized business owners that don't ever grow to their total potential is because the founder is saying to themselves, well, I'm really good at what I do. I don't know if I could trust what they do, and then it looks bad on numeric IQ as an example. So where's your pain threshold on that of bringing on talent that will do, I don't know, 85%, 95% of what you do
I
at the
think there's a lot
quality
of
level?
people out, yeah, I think there's a lot of people out there that are a lot of smarter than me. Honestly, like that, I think there's a lot of really smart people that if you find the right talent and you put them in the right seat and you empower them, they will do well. I am not a perfectionist. I can do what I do because I very much believe in the 80-20 principle, where 20% of what you do gives you 80% of the results. And I think there's enough talented, smart people in my network who have a similar type of appreciation for doing great work. 100% perfectionist work actually does not work in the world of AI because things are changing so quickly. So, what you need is someone who is adaptable, someone who is curious, someone who will try things. That matters more than someone who is going to do exactly the way I do things because they might find a way of doing things 10 times better than I do. That is the beauty of this technology. It changes so quickly that if I can find someone who's smarter than me and can do it better, great. I think there's enough out there for everyone. So many people need help with this, and so many people are curious about it. So, if I can find someone else to join, who's curious and who will challenge me, that will be better. There are definitely people out there that can do this better than I can. And if I can find those people, I will be more than happy to bring them on. That's my perspective.
No, I'm like inside gushing because I love the answer. I love the answer. Having interviewed 400 business owners and CEOs and entrepreneurs, it's interesting because that is the mindset you have to have. So go for a community. If you just listen to Danielle's, reply on that, and the way she answered it is a mindset of growth, not a mindset of limitation, right? Only I can do this the best, and only the. So I love the answer that you just gave, and I can't wait. And we're gonna have you back in 12 months because I think numeric IQ is gonna be busting at the seams with the talent and the things that you're going to be doing in the marketplace. So, all right. So, look, marketing in and of itself can be an interesting thing, right? And you mentioned a couple times, oh, well, that is sales, right? When I talked about
Yeah.
money or selling something or what have you. What's your combination of marketing and sales right now? And what's your ROAS, right? Like return on ad spend, and like, are you doing even that? Or is it just your network, your bootstrapping? Like, where are you at in that process?
I have probably not spent $1 on marketing unless you consider paying for my Squarespace and Lovable website. That is my marketing. There's one thing that I can say was really helpful coming out of Booth. That was going straight into a sales job when all my friends went into consulting and banking. You
Mm.
learn so much of how not to just like be embarrassed anymore and just get out there. So right now what I am doing is I am just talking about this on LinkedIn. I am writing a newsletter. I am making a fool of myself, even on Instagram sometimes right now. I am just getting out there and being very vocal about what this technology can do for people. That is it. I'm not trying to sell you my services. Right now, I'm just trying to share as much as I can about the things that I'm building for myself and for clients. And that's my marketing. You're
Mm.
interested? Come chat with me. You want to learn something? Come chat with me. I have had so many countless conversations with people in my network just to purely help them. I'm very much a believer in the give and take theory that Adam Grant talks about. If you are a giver, it will repay down the road. So right now, I'm just in the give, give, give mode, and that sometimes turns into clients, that turns into referrals, that turns into me doing things for free for my friends, and I am okay with that. That is where I'm at right now. I'm just trying to enjoy the journey, share what I'm learning with people, and that in itself is attracting opportunity in the most organic way.
All right. So I do this once in a while, but let just to be a little bit contrarian. All right.
Yeah.
So in your particular case, mom of three, right? You said three
Yeah.
beautiful little kids under six. Hubby's still working, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So go to a community, right? Danielle's in a little bit different situation, right? So she's able to kind of be a little bit flexible with this scenario because I think a lot of times too, right? There's this weird yin yang in the interviews that I've had, and even just in my own businesses that I've had when I've been an entrepreneur and entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It's that time frame of like saying, like, do I have a go-giver mentality, and then have an expectation that through faith and giving, that world and reciprocity will come back, or do I have a go get it right and ask for the
Mm-hmm.
business mentality,
Yeah.
and then I need to go make things happen now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's an interesting situation, but I'm sure that there's a little bit of levity in that, right? And a little bit of I guess support from each other, from your husband and yourself, and that's really a cool thing to have, and super excited for you to have that kind of that breathing room, a little bit of
Yeah.
that too. So is that fair to say?
Yeah, I will add a few things. So I was in a very comfortable tech job for many years. And
Hmm.
one thing that was important for me from the beginning was knowing that I was going to go on this journey. So I think
Hmm.
one mantra that I've said for the last many years is just want less. And that sounds kind of just weird, but wanting less
Want
makes
less? Okay.
want less, like
Okay.
materialistically, which allows
Okay.
you to save more, which allows me to take
Sure.
this risk. So that was a big piece of it. It was very
Hmm.
intentional of how I didn't do this straight after business school. I did this after many years, right? I'm very intentional with when I made the step in the right way. There's a flip side to it. You could say, go buy a business, you get cash flow right away. But then the other risk that you're getting is a huge PG on your head and do you sleep well at night?
Hmm.
Whereas from, and again, it's about your wanting less now, maybe for more later. So for me, yes, I could go buy a business right today. I can have a huge PG on my head. I can have more cash flow, but it's a trade-off. So it's not that I'm not necessarily wanting to go and get it. It's just being very intentional about when I'm going to get it, if that makes
Okay.
sense. And
No, yeah, I love that.
how much to want in the exact moment and to be okay for wanting less right now, which isn't easy, right? There's that trade-off. It's not easy.
Well, and I mentioned the book a couple of times, but chapter one, I talk about wants and needs, right? And
Hmm.
and a want, like you said, if you have the discipline, man, you could suppress wants, right? And for a time frame, right? You don't have to do it
Yeah,
forever, but give yourself goals. Make sure those wants aren't overbearing on your finances, on your time, or whatever, right? But needs are a little bit different. Like I have to have
right.
this. Like I have to eat today, or else I may feel sick or whatever, right? Like the next few days, I got to eat and drink water, right? That's
Right.
definitely a
Right.
need. So, but
Yeah.
awesome, awesome. So, all right, now, ideal client right now. Is there an avatar that you've identified? I know that we talked about that 1 to 25-ish, I think you said million. Are you willing to do startups? Is there a certain avatar that you really are kind of holding a strict line to?
I would say I'm actually looking a bit now. I'm going to go back to entrepreneurship through acquisition lens. Even though I have a big software background, I'm focusing mostly on service businesses and or physical product businesses.
Mm,
So that's kind of where I'm focusing on. It doesn't necessarily have to be that you've bought a business and I'm working with someone after they transitioned, but I do like businesses where there's a clear service that they're providing or a clear product that they're providing. That's just the world in which I think we're going as especially as AI gets deeper. And usually it's either a first, I say a second time founder is if it's a startup, it's usually someone who's already founded a business and they kind of know what workflows really need the help versus someone who's fresh and just starting a business from scratch and maybe hasn't
mhm.
really owned a P&L before. That's where I find I just have a better founder fit. And yes, I'm looking usually between the 1 to 25 million. I know that's a very large range, but when I say the 1 million, it's usually when I'm looking at a second time founder. And that's when I feel comfortable coming on because they know where to really optimize in a workflow. So here's the thing I will say. Yes, I can come in and tell you where to do it, but you also have to have a partner on the other side of the table, which is why I'm saying that that caveat's a little bit important because you can tell someone and give someone all the information that they want or think that they want, but to actually go and give someone the permission to build and implement is a whole different part that you have to give up. And that's where I'm finding that if you're a little bit more established or you've done this before, then it really makes sense to come in because you as a founder or owner will benefit more than just a consultant taking a fee and walking away. Like that's not helpful. So that's why I'm
Yeah.
focusing on that type of business and owner.
Yeah, and I think people are more and more aware, right? You've got to be, from an SMB standpoint, privately held, like you're making critical decisions, right? You bring in Danielle because she's, been referred. I saw something really intriguing on LinkedIn that she posted. I DM'd her, and our conversation was such a good flow that I'm feeling positive about what she can do for me, right, in that business. So I think that's, such an integral part of kind of that process of building
Yeah.
credibility and building that flexibility for you to be able to kind of step in and help them. So, I do want to note one thing, for a Go for Your community, like, I think I've said this probably 1,000 times, but it's very interesting to me, right? I know when you say 1 to 25 million, maybe a little bit big spread, but in reality, 9%, and people can Google this, 9% of businesses ever hit $1 million in revenue.
Yeah.
Okay. So the window gets smaller and smaller of the amount of businesses that are at 10, 15, 25, 30, 40. So that's even for me, I've positioned myself 1 to 100 million
Hmm.
because I really want to work with those that could hit a million plus, right? Because
Hmm.
now I feel like you're really established. And like when I sold my business, we were at around a top line of 3.5 million. And, I could really relate to those people. I could say, man, I got scared in 08, 09, and that's kind of why I sold to a
Hmm.
bigger team as far as another strategic buyer. And my partner wanted to stay on, but I said, "Hey, I'm good to go." Probably could have stayed if I had a little bit more gumption in me, but nonetheless. But all right, so as we end the interview, we talk about a lot CEO, right? So client experience, engagement, and I'll kind of walk you through that one because it's about Danielle and her engagement and what you like to do. And then O is for operational excellence, which I know we touched on the surface of some of the things that you're doing and these workspaces that you're in with Claude. So I'll go deeper into that. But when you think about numeric IQ advisors, what you are and what you want to experience with your client and have them bring a journey with them for what they'll do, what does that look like from a value proposition in 60 to 90 seconds?
The biggest thing is that the founder and the team are doing more of what they love and less of what they don't love. That to me is like where I really like to start and anchor in, and that they're able to keep their team engaged and happy, and that flows down there because they, again, everyone's doing more of what they love because they have agents, they have skills, they have resources taking away the work that doesn't bring them joy. And that inherently creates a more engaged and happy team, which then drives more revenue, more profitability down the road. This is the beauty of AI. It comes into a business, it takes away the noise, it takes away the repetitive tasks, and it elevates everybody. So that is the goal with Numeric. We come in, we help you do better, we help you feel better, we help the team just be engaged. There's just so much that you can do. And a lot of people are worried that their jobs are going to be taken. I don't think that's the case. I think their jobs are just going to be elevated. We go in there to help elevate everyone's role.
I love it. All right, it's almost a mic drop moment, but we have two more questions.
Let's
So,
do it.
all right. So E is for engagement, Danielle. So I have loved hearing the feedback on this one. Danielle, right? You're a mother of three. You went to Booth, like you got this background, all this stuff. But how do you like to engage? Are you a dinner person? Do you like to go to a show? Are you an opera person? Do you like to rock climb? Like, what cool thing could someone know about you in this scenario of liking to engage with you?
Oh, wow. I feel like I'm not cool on this front anymore. Honestly, I'm just an outdoors nature person. If I had my ideal afternoon, it's like going for a hike. That is where I'm happy. You're not going to engage with me at some like five-star, whatever, Michelin restaurant, some opera show. I just love being outdoors. I love being active. That's where I'm honestly the most engaged.
Okay. So would you say, I mean, even a potential prospect could say, hey, let's take a walk in, a forest preserve or something like that. And that would be engaging for you.
Totally. I'd rather do that or at least just go for a walk on the river here than sit in some stuffy
Office.
restaurant. That's just
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
my vibe.
Okay. I
No.
love it. I love it. So, and this is why I love that question. It used to be engagement with employees, but I changed it several years ago because I was so curious how every human being has this innate thing about themselves of how they like to relate to each other. And when you
Hmm.
get into that person's space, like now I know Danielle likes to be in nature, likes to be around the river. Like my next time if we get together is like Naperville River Walk or like whatever, somewhere
Yeah.
cool like that. So awesome. All right. Operational excellence is all about just kind of the tools and things that you're using. You've mentioned Claude a few times. Wonder if there's any other tools that you personally, Numeric IQ Advisors, is using to kind of simplify your day, Monday.com, all these types of things. What are
Yeah.
some strategic tools that you're using now?
So my most basic thing is I pick up my phone, I open my Notion app, and I have something called a voice dump. And that's when I put in all my random thoughts for numeric advisors, for AI after carpool, for some investing things that I'm working in. It is as simple as just your voice. Your voice right now has become the most powerful tool that I use, whether it's inputting my voice thoughts into Notion, into Claude, into honestly my emails. Voice has been this huge unlock for me over
Hmm.
the last little bit. And that sounds so crazy because it's not some fancy CRM. I just think there's so much nuance that comes out when we talk more so than we type. And my ability now to capture that in Notion and in Claude and in Gemini has been amazing. So you might see me taking a walk. I live near the water here. And on the lakefront, you might just see me just walking around talking to my phone. I'm that person right now. That's me. So that's been my biggest operational excellence um, solution, honestly.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Danielle, it's such a joy, right? I really love and get a lot of energy from having, true CEOs, entrepreneurs as well, which you were, right, at one point,
Yeah.
and the entrepreneur spirit is it really breeds in me, and I love that you've taken this leap, and I love the way that you deciphered it, right, over a year and a half journey, and you got the kiddos, you got life, you got faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun, right, and you take care of all that. Present well, all that type of stuff. And it's interesting to kind of just see the dynamic of the person that you keep on developing into, and especially in this, like we said earlier, crazy world. So tell people
Yes.
how to get a hold of you. What's the best way to engage with Numeric, and how would you like people to contact you?
Best way is just find me on LinkedIn, Danielle Matarasso, Numeric Advisors. Look us up. I think that's just the easiest way. I'm very active there.
Awesome, guys. Well, hey, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, become a subscriber of the GoFCO channel, of the GoFCO community. We're also coming out with 4A Boardroom for the 4A leaders, for the 4A formula. It's going to be a cohort, a peer group of people that we're going to bring into this community, really develop some great relationships, and have some real results. And the GoFCO.ai trusted partners, which we're talking to Danielle about as well. So looking forward to having you guys continue to learn from Danielle and from so many of our CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs. Pick up the book, The 4A Formula, Untangle Any Challenge, and Think Like a CEO on Amazon. It's on Kindle. It's working on audio soon, and then also paperback. So thanks so much, Daniel, for being part of the GoFCO channel.
Thanks for having me.